Good evening. This is Mayor Skip Henderson, and I want to welcome you to tonight's virtual town hall meeting. We're continuing our efforts to try to make sure that we keep the citizens of Muskogee County as informed as possible about the COVID-19 virus, its impact on our community, and the status of some of the various buildings throughout our community. We're going to be answering your questions tonight. We've already received a number of them through email since Monday, and in an effort to try to make sure we're getting this out to as many people as possible, we're actually broadcasting it on three different mediums. We're going to be, you may be watching this on Facebook Live, or you may be watching this on the CCG YouTube channel that's linked to our website. Or you may be watching this on CCG TV. We'll be airing live there as well. We'll also be fielding questions from Facebook Live. So as we continue to try to get you the information you need, we won't be able to hit all the questions, I know, because we've received so many, but hopefully some of these that we do get to will answer some of the ones that you've had as well. We got a great panel, though, that I think is going to be able to provide answers to almost any question you have. We've got City Manager Isaiah Hughley, our City Attorney Clifton Fay, our Assistant City Attorney, I believe, is also with us, Lucy Sheftel, and from Homeland Security, Riley Land, and our representative from the Department of Public Health. The person I go to for answers is Dr. Asante Hiltz. We also are going to be moderated tonight by one of the shining stars of the Columbus Consolidated Government. He works, his day job is in the Tax Commissioner's office, but he also hosts a show on CCG TV, and that's David Britt. So I'm going to turn it over to David, and he'll begin to read your questions and pass them out to the panel. David?
Thank you, Mayor. All right, our first question for the City Manager Hughley. This is regarding recreation facilities. When will recreation facilities be open to the public?
Let me just first of all say thank you, Mr. Britt, for hosting us, moderating this session, and we look forward to all of the questions. But to your question regarding recreation centers, rec centers will not open on Monday, May 18th, and will remain closed until June 12th, unless changed by order of the mayor. I want to share with the viewers and those participating today the opening on Monday, May 18th, those facilities at least that will open on Monday, May 18th, and then those that will not open on this date and will be reevaluated for a June 12th opening date. We will open Lake Oliver Marina, Cooper Creek Tennis Center, Bull Creek Golf Course, Disc Golf, Parks and Trails, restrooms, and the Mulroney House. What we will not open on Monday, May 18th, and will reevaluate for opening on or before June 12th, 2020, all recreation centers closed, all senior centers, playgrounds, and pavilions, all athletic fields, aquatic center, outdoor pools, soccer complex, Haygood Gym, Britt David Pottery, skateboard park, community schools, summer camp, therapeutic recreation. And so there are those things, obviously, again, that will open on Monday, May 18th, and those things that will not. They are scheduled to open. Those things that are not opening on Monday, May 18th will open on June 12th unless reevaluated and an order comes from Mayor Skip Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Hughley. Mayor Henderson, a lot of families are looking forward to baseball and soccer practice. Do those practices coincide with that June 12th date?
Hopefully. We're not opening them on Monday, and the main reason for that. And listen, we want to get the kids and the adults back on the field absolutely as quickly as we can and do it safely. But the challenge we've got is under the governor's existing order. He still maintains that you have to have the social distancing of 6 feet. And unfortunately, almost all of those sports in an organized league just can't do that. Soccer, basketball, and even baseball is sometimes a contact sport. So we are not going to be allowing organized activities on those fields. We'll evaluate those. We evaluate them every day, but we'll really take a look at them on June 1st when the governor's extension expires. And then depending on what he does, we'll probably be looking at around the middle of June before we allow those organized activities.
Gotcha. Now, another question I'm sure you're probably getting a lot of, what are the rules for restaurants to be open?
Oh, man. Well, actually, there's about 39 of them. Under the governor's order, he said that he recommends takeout only, but for those that want to participate in dine-in, he has given 39 conditions that have to be met. Now, the easiest way for you to get all of them is to either go to the governor's website, and you can find it on his page underneath executive orders, or you can go to the Georgia Department of Economic Development, and they've got a tab for COVID business on there that'll take you right to some of those items. I can tell you some of the primary ones and some of the major ones that we're hearing about. Servers have to wear masks. You can have 10 people per 300 square feet. Now that's really kind of hard to evaluate. So what they're really looking at is making sure that each table has a distance of 6 feet between parties. They did increase the size of the parties. You can have up to 10 individuals in one party in the restaurant. And then there's some other things they cannot loiter in the lobby or at the bar area. They actually have to wait outside or in their vehicle until their table is ready. So there's a number of other conditions. If you're concerned about it, if you're a restaurant owner, I would refer you to those two websites.
With all the precautions that we are taking in the city, are these COVID-19 numbers decreasing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. The short answer is no. They're actually still going up. We're over 400 positive cases in Muskogee County right now, but it's a little misleading because our testing has really ramped up, and Dr. Hiltz may be able to piggyback onto this and give you some more information, but they've been doing such a good job of testing that our numbers are naturally going up. Now, we do watch very closely one set of numbers looking for trends, and that's with regards to the hospitalization rate. And from that perspective, we have been stable since about the 30th of April and have actually decreased. So that's good news.
Awesome. Dr. Hiltz, going off of that, as far as testing, where can we get tested? Do we have to have symptoms to get tested? And how long does it take for those tests to come back?
Okay, that's a great question, and it's a question that we're getting very often in our call center here at the health department. And fortunately, we have several places where our community members can get tested now. The health department is one of them. We have extended our hours to accommodate people to get tested, and you can test with us here at the health department Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's a drive-in. You stay in your car to get the test. And because we did get feedback that people needed a weekend option, we have been trying to be open both on Saturday and Sunday. But guaranteed, every Saturday we have testing from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. This particular week, we're going to be testing at the Civic Center. We thank you to the mayor and city manager for allowing us to do that, to allow more opportunities for citizens to come to get tested. We've been doing these pop-up sites around the community. We've been at Dorothy Heights School, Shirley B. Winston Park, and this weekend from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., we will be at the Civic Center. There are other community partners who have our same goal with trying to get as many people tested as possible. That's Valley Healthcare. They do testing. You can call and schedule an appointment for their drive-through testing. Our Mercy Med partner also has testing available, and you can call and make an appointment with them. And there are several providers we've been working with, private providers who are now testing their patients. So if you have a private physician, you can contact them just to ask if they're doing it, if you feel more comfortable going to your private provider. Otherwise, we're available here 6 to 7 days a week to provide testing, and our testing is free. The question about having symptoms is that you do not have to have symptoms to get tested. No one will be denied a test. We are trying to educate the community about why testing is important, as well as the fact that it's not necessary to get retested over and over again. you get tested, you follow the precautions that we've set, and you don't have to come back every week to get a test. The unfortunate thing is, although there's a lot of testing availability, because we are making a statewide effort for increased testing, it has slowed our response for getting the results back because a lot of our labs are overwhelmed. And we have heard from the governor and our commissioner Toomey that they are working on that to try to ensure that we can get results back in a more timely manner. Right now, it's taking between 5 to 8 days to get results back. We want that to look more like 24 to 48 hours. So we are educating those who come get a test with us to just be patient, to continue to quarantine and get until you get your results back. However, testing is more widely available. We just need you to stay in that quarantine until you get the results back, even though it may be a little bit longer than we would like.
Thank you, Dr. Hiltz. Mr. City Manager, the Government Center, when will the Government Center be opening?
The Government Center is scheduled to reopen on Monday, May 18th, this coming Monday. This includes all government buildings, the Government Center, the City Services Center, the Annex, and other city buildings. And let me just say that as we began to reopen buildings, we're doing so with social distancing in mind to minimize the spread of COVID-19. So as citizens enter the Columbus Consolidated Government buildings, they will see the 6-foot social distancing markers on the floors. They'll see plexiglass shields at counters. They'll witness more cleaning and sanitizing taking place. We've implemented a COVID-19 face mask policy for Columbus Consolidated Government employees when face-to-face with other city employees or with citizens visiting the buildings. And so we strongly encourage citizens entering the Columbus Consolidated Government buildings to wear face masks. And so this coming Monday, May 18th, we will be reopening all buildings. And that really means that every office will be open. Citizens will be able to walk in and physically engage with employees to conduct their business. Though we will have a blend of telework and physically working, it should be seamless, and they should notice no difference in how they conducted business prior to the pandemic and how they will be conducting business Monday, May 18th, other than all of the protocols and social distancing things that we're doing to keep our employees safe and to keep them safe. Monday, May 18th, we will be reopening city buildings.
And you mentioned that as part of those safety precautions, employees will be wearing masks. We have Riley Land from Homeland Security. Riley, how can the public go about getting masks? Riley, are you there?
You may be muted.
Okay. Well, let's go back to Riley. Mayor, I have a question for you. How much testing has been done in Muskogee County?
Well, as Dr. Hiltz mentioned, the testing has increased, thankfully. And they do a great job of providing numbers on a daily basis for us to track. And we do track numbers best we can within our office. And best we can tell between the DPH and between some of their partners, community partners, they've done close to 3,400 tests, somewhere between 3,000, 3,500. But I'll tell you, in addition to that, there are a lot of private entities that are doing testing as well, and it may or may not be being reported to the DPH. And then, of course, the hospitals are testing. So we feel pretty comfortable saying that we've had around 4,000 tests done in Muskogee County. And what's significant about that is if you do the math, that means about one in every 50 residents of Muskogee County have been tested, and that's fairly strong. So we want to get more testing out there available. Department of Public Health does an awesome job doing that, but we're getting people tested.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Dr. Hiltz, a question came over Facebook. How is testing done? Could you answer that?
Yes. So here at the health department, we do a nasopharyngeal swab. So there's swabbing of the nose that occurs, and that's a very quick swab. If there was a medical condition and someone could not get a nasal swab, we are able to do an oral swab, but almost all of our testing is done as a very quick nasal sample. If people go to other providers in the community, they may get a serology test, finger stick. That's an option that we don't have here at the health department. So all of the testing that we do, and probably most of your providers, are nasal.
All right, thank you, thank you. Mayor Henderson, another question for you. A lot of the public is concerned about the status of our hospital resources. What is the status of those resources?
Well, we stay in pretty close contact with the local hospitals, and we use a blended number because we're really interested in the total resources for our entire area, our entire region. And I can tell you right now that they are as prepared as they could possibly be. As I mentioned earlier, the hospitalization rate has actually trended down. So the resources available for those who may need them are in good shape right now. Now, having said that, that's as long as the citizens of Muskogee County continue to follow some of the guidelines: social distancing, washing hands, stay home if you're sick, wear a mask. Because as soon as we start taking it for granted that things are looking good, then we could, in fact, experience that surge they talk about that could, if it was big enough, overwhelm our hospitals. Now, I will say, in the unlikely event that happens, we've, with Riley Land and some of the others with Homeland Security, we've identified a couple of areas where we can stand up about an additional 50 to 60 beds in a matter of hours. So our community is, even though things are looking better, we remain as prepared as we could possibly be for any eventuality.
Thank you, sir. Is Riley Land back on yet? All right, we had a question about the masks. Why, Mayor Henderson, why aren't masks a requirement?
Short answer is because it's not left to the local governments right now. Under the governor's existing order, local governments are fairly restricted into what they can enact in addition to his. It has to just be something that complements the conditions within his order. I think the bigger challenge there is when you urge people to wear masks. Now listen, when I first went out into public and went into the grocery store and hardware store, wore a mask. I still do wear a mask when I go out in public. And it's awkward. First few times, it just feels strange. But you'll be surprised how quickly you get used to it. And keep in mind that the benefit of most of the masks, the surgical masks, the bandanas, that's there to help the entire community, because that doesn't necessarily protect you from any particulate matter, but it does protect anybody around you in the event that you cough or sneeze. So it's a significant piece of the puzzle that allows us to continue to keep that curve flattened and keep the pressure off our hospitals.
Okay. I have a question for either City Attorney Clifton Fay or Lucy Shefton. This is regarding license and permitting processes. How will those be held and how will those be handled? Business license, gun carry license, marriage license, things of that nature.
All right, David, good evening. Let me talk a little bit about the probate requirements with weapons carry licenses and marriage licenses, their numbers, and then a little bit on car tags involving our tax commissioner, and then I'll let Ms. Sheftal comment on some other tax and license provisions. Under Georgia law, folks normally have 30 days to go apply for their weapons carry renewal after expiration. The other day, the governor issued on May 8th a special executive order related to weapons carry permits, and he's given folks whose licenses expire between February 13th and June 12th another 120 days to come in and apply in probate court. And there's a number that I'll give out here for probate court, 706-225-4750, if people have questions about that. But there is a much longer time period on weapons carry applications now. For marriage information, Judge D'Antoni Antonio asked people to please call for appointments at 706-225-4750. And that, again, is for marriage license documents. The state of Georgia Department of Revenue has given folks some relief on car tag for payments and permit renewals. If your birthday falls between March 16th and June 14th, 2020, you've been extended through June the 15th, 2020, as far as those renewals. Of course, Mr. Britt, that being his office, he knows more about that than anybody, but they have given that relief out of the Department of Revenue for car tag renewals. And I'm going to let Ms. Shefdahl come on in and comment on some of our other tax payments that people are worried about, tax, income tax and payments, and business licenses.
Thank you, Clifton. All April and May alcohol distributor excise taxes were due May 10th, and all mixed drink excise taxes and vehicle rental excise taxes for April and May will be due in May 20th. And then there are no further extensions on those taxes provided. Business license renewals and payment of any business occupation taxes for the year 2020 will be due by June 1. And the business license renewals, the Revenue Division informs me that they will be open starting Monday with social distancing and will be available to serve customers. And state income taxes for the 2019 tax year have been extended to July 15th, 2020. So I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, Clifton, I can add a little bit to the information about the tax office. We will be opening as well on May 18th. We are expecting a long line, obviously, but you can renew online. If you have a vehicle renewal or registration, anything besides a title transfer can be done online. You can go there by eservices.drives.ga.gov. We also have a drop box at the Citizen Service Center. We do not take cash, of course, but we do take money order and checks there. Leave your phone number as well if you're going to drop it in the drop box. We also had a question about the library. When will the libraries be reopened?
Well, I will say that is the school district facility, the library, and I don't know the exact dates that they will be opening, but that's something we can get from the Muskogee County School District.
All right.
David,
Thank you, sir.
I did see a little bit of a preliminary information. They are beginning to open, but they're going to do it incrementally. They'll probably do some drop off and pick up outside the facilities, but we'll get that information. We'll have it posted on our Facebook page by tomorrow.
Gotcha. Riley Land, is Riley Land back on?
Yes, can you hear us now?
We can. Welcome. Thank you for coming on in.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Land, people want to know, how can they get masks?
Well, when the COVID-19 situation first started to ramp up, even public safety had difficulty getting masks. The standard supply just evaporated. People began, trying to get as many as they could for public safety. We actually had to go out to the state of Georgia and take supplies from caches and their supplies. Luckily, now that we're beginning to see some time, we're seeing our supply chain start to strengthen, stabilize. We're starting to see the pipeline start to fill. So most people should be able to go to their local favorite retailer now. A lot of them in town are carrying those, office supply places, big box stores. But we recommend that the citizens call first. That would minimize their time out and minimize their interaction of going to stores to look for them and them not having them. So if they want to get on the phone, make some calls around, they should be able to find masks locally. If they're having difficulty and don't want to go out, they can actually even go on the internet and order those now. All we ask is that they be cautious ordering on the internet, order from a business or a reputable company that they know, that they've done business with before, and be sure and look to make sure And I caught myself today when I was looking, down at the bottom, it said, allow 2 to 3 weeks for delivery. And that may not be something that citizens want to wait for. So be sure that, and even make a phone call or an email to ask if they're in stock and that they can ship right away. So currently I know of no places where they can be given out for free. And we're still having to go out and purchase some as well for our public safety. So use caution, get a good mask. There are several different types. They're the single-use types. They're the types that can be cleaned, disinfected. Some can be washed, used again over and over. So whatever suits them best that they can get their hands on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. City Manager, regarding recycling, when will recycling start back? When will those blue bins be back on exit 12? When can we start back with our recycling?
Let me just say first that we do appreciate the patience and understanding of citizens as we've been dealing with this pandemic. We had to suspend recycling because our recycling center, we employ a number of employees, and with employees and inmate labor working together in that facility, there are about 50 people. And we could not do social distancing with 50 people in that facility working to process recyclables. And so we had to suspend recycling. But I'm pleased to announce that effective Monday, June 1st, 2020, the City of Columbus will reinstate recycling, and not just recycling, but non-green bulk collection services on Monday, June 1st. And so again, we want to thank the citizens of Columbus for their patience and understanding. And you ask about when blue bins would come back at exit 12. Actually, and that's a welcome center. Actually, the blue bins will be back at the welcome center tomorrow, Friday, May 15th. And so we're excited about that, and we're excited that we are getting back to recycling. We'd gotten off to a great start, and we had more and more people recycling, and then the pandemic hit, and then we had to suspend it. But thanks for the question, and thank you to the citizens for their patience and understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Hughley. Another question for one of our city attorneys, and this is regarding evictions. Have evictions been suspended?
David, the answer is yes to certain types of mortgages and contracts involving, landlord and tenant relations. For all FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac that are controlled by federal rules, they have been suspended. Dr. Carson was on the news today, about half the day, with the headline behind him saying there's a moratorium on all the FHA mortgages and possible evictions. And people who have questions about that should call their banker that they dealt with when they first got their loan. And under Georgia law, other relationships, contracts that are not covered under the federal rules, the governor has not specifically addressed those in an order, but people can call municipal court. Their general number is 706-653-4378 with questions, and magistrate court the number is 706-653-4390. There's still a judicial emergency in the state of Georgia declared by the Georgia Chief Justice through mid-June. So as a practical matter, there would be very few, if any, dispossessory hearings occurring during this emergency time period, but those are numbers people can call with questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Now, on Facebook, we're getting a lot of questions regarding bars, both from patrons and from owners. They're wondering, why can't bars be open? When will bars be able to be opened back up?
David, I'll take a shot at that one. Really, that they were named in the governor's order, and I can tell you that I believe his reasoning is that it is such a difficult task within that environment to maintain social distancing. He's been very, very adamant about continuing to require the ability for patrons to socially distance themselves. And I think until we get to a point that he is comfortable that either that can be accomplished in those businesses, or that the threat has for the most part passed, I think he's going to probably continue to have that in there. But I'll say this: listen, we understand that this medical crisis has led to a financial catastrophe. There are people that are hurting. There are people who've lost their jobs. There are people like some of the bar owners that are struggling to keep their businesses afloat during this time. We recognize that, and we continue to lobby on behalf of our small businesses in Columbus with not just the state leadership, but also with our senators and our congressional leaders to continue to try to provide some type of sustenance for these individuals who are trying to hang on and keep people employed.
All right, thank you. Along with that, there's been miscommunication and misunderstanding about a curfew. Is there a curfew in Columbus?
No, not per se. I will tell you that the governor's order, though, did still leave in place a shelter-in-place order on a certain portion of Georgia's citizens. And this is not an inclusive list, but it tends to be individuals over 65 years of age, people who have who live in assisted living facilities, people who have underlying conditions, and it lists some of the medical conditions. So with regards to a curfew, that's sort of a 24-hour curfew for those particular Georgians. They can leave their house for the essential travel to go to their healthcare facility or to go buy groceries and some of those things. But there is no curfew in Columbus, Georgia, outside of that.
All right, thank you. Dr. Hiltz, there's a question, are we doing antibody testing in Columbus?
There are some places that offer antibody testing. Here at the health department, we are not doing antibody testing. Mercy Med is another partner who's doing antibody testing. Again, you can call them for an appointment. There is ACE Acute Care on Veterans that is doing antibody testing that we know of. And there may be others that we're unaware of, but those are just the two that we've been made aware of. We are, like I said, we're not doing right now. Some private labs are offering that, but we do not have that available.
Thank you. And what is antibody testing?
That allows people to understand if they have been exposed to the virus in the past. They may not have an acute illness right now, but they may have been exposed before and just didn't know it. They may have been asymptomatic, and now it's in their bloodstream. So we can say, okay, you may not have an acute illness, you may not have any symptoms, you may not be positive right now, but at some point in the past, you were positive.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, and you touched on this a while back, the patients at Piedmont Hospital, do they have access to all the testing and all the diagnostic equipment that will assist the nurses and the doctors to help care for them?
Well, thank you, David. I do know that the hospitals are doing some testing for COVID-19, and certainly right now, because of the fact that the resources are kind of outnumbering the demand right now. Yes, they do. I'll tell you that we only, knock on wood, but we monitor it, and we've got less than 30 people in our hospitals in this area that have been COVID diagnosed. So that's not in any one hospital, that's in all the hospitals in this area.
Thank you. Another question for you, Mayor. Summer is here, is approaching. Many parents depend on those summer camps to keep their sanity and to take care of their children. What are the city's thoughts on outdoor and indoor summer camps?
Well, that's actually two questions wrapped in one. The city's summer camps, day camps, are not going to be operated this year. We just aren't confident that we can do so in a way that will be meaningful for the children and at the same time keep them safe. The governor's order, however, does allow for day camps and even with some stricter guidelines, some overnight camps. So my recommendation is that you get a copy of those conditions, either on the governor's webpage or at the Department of Economic Development's website, and make sure that you understand what you are able to hold that camp accountable for in the event that you do decide to send your child.
Question, Mr. City Manager. Once the government center opens back up on the 18th, what will be the protocol for the elevators?
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Britt, that the elevators are going to be a challenge for us. We only have 4 elevators. They don't always work so well. And when the courts become active again, we typically have a lot of people coming in to get to the courts. The governor's executive order recommends no more than 4 on an elevator at one time. And so that is a challenge in that, you know, we've got to social distance people when they come into the government center, for example. We want to keep them at least 6 feet apart. We only have 4 elevators. We only want 4 people on the elevator at a given time. And so we're probably going to have to ask the sheriff's office to assist us with people getting on the elevators to enter the government center. And of course, we're going to have some signage on each elevator that suggests that no more than 4 people should be on the elevator at one time. We're going to have signage on each floor prior to getting onto an elevator that will say no more than 4 people on the elevator at one time. That is going to be a challenge. It's going to be hard to maintain control because some people are not going to read the signage. Some people are going to be in a hurry and they are going to need to get on the elevator to get to court or to make a meeting on time. And we just got to figure some of that out, but we are going to ask the sheriff's office to assist us in the protocol that we will establish or that has been handed down by the governor in executive order, that we will comply. And we want to maintain social distancing. We want to make sure our employees are safe, and we want to make sure citizens remain safe. It's going to be a challenge.
Thank you. Mr. Wright, Mr. Land, can information be provided to the community regarding the number of patients that have contracted the COVID-19 virus? So we're talking from local nursing homes, and how many positive cases will constitute assistance from the National Guard?
I'll preface that answer by saying that the City of Columbus Consolidated Government is very, very careful and aware of releasing information about patients, medical issues because of legal restrictions, legal requirements that are placed on the release of that information. A lot of the nursing home or any of the nursing home patients that are diagnosed, obviously their results would go through public health. We don't, as a city, and haven't so far attempted to break out positive cases in this location or positive cases in that location or do anything like that. We're looking at it globally from a city perspective. So that may be something that public health would like to address, Dr. Hiltz. But I will say the National Guard has jumped in and at the request of the governor made themselves available to City of Columbus. And we put in requests for the National Guard units to go to each of the assisted living facilities, nursing homes, memory care facilities, and we do have a lot of them in Columbus. I had no idea how many. And they're working their way through as quickly as they can to do infection control and training for the staff. The infection controls consists of the strike team going in and showing the staff how to clean properly and the proper materials to use to do good disinfection and cleaning. And they also have strike teams that will go in and actually assist with testing in those nursing homes. They haven't completed all of them yet, and they're still on the list. So any of the nursing homes that want to have those National Guard units come by and do testing, please contact me. My email address is rland, R-L-A-N-D, at columbusga.org. I'll be happy to forward that request through the state of Georgia and have the National Guard respond. But that's an ongoing project. It's not complete. And as far as the release of any of the medical type information regarding positive cases in the nursing homes, we have not released that at this point, and may or may not based on recommendations from public health.
This is another question regarding numbers of cases, and whether Mr. Land or someone else on the call can answer. Do we have statistics on how many cases have been reported in the Muskogee County Jail?
Yes, and I don't have that number directly handy, but I would let the sheriff address that, since that's under her jurisdiction, or either the mayor.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I will tell you that the sheriff has done an exceptional job, as has our HR department and all of the department heads under the supervision of Mr. Hughley, in mitigating any positive diagnosis we got in any department. And you can imagine the challenge with having over 800 individuals in your care, and the fact that there has been no serious outbreak in that jail, and in the prison. The warden has done the same good job. I think indicates that they've followed protocol. They've worked with the Department of Public Health, worked with our HR department, and made sure that any instances where somebody was diagnosed positively, they were immediately quarantined and separated from the rest of the population.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Another question for you. The citizens are concerned with businesses that they come in close contact with, like salons. How do people make sure that their salon that they attend is following the rules? How do they make sure all operations are handled correctly?
Well, David, that's a great question. And I think it brings a different perspective, because we've been talking about how businesses can check themselves. And this I assume comes from a citizen who's curious to make sure, or curious to know if the place they patronize is following the rules. They can visit these same websites and get the criteria. But I'll tell you that there's some pretty strict criteria for the salons. It limits one person or customer there per stylist. Everybody else has to wait outside. The only exception is a child can be in there with their parent. The patron has to wear a mask. The patrons are supposed to be sanitizing their hands before they sit down to have their the work done. And there are some requirements for staggered schedules, so that only 50% of the workforce is there at a particular time. So that's a great question. And for the complete list of requirements, go to the governor's website or to the Georgia Department of Economic Development. You'll be able to find that there.
Thank you, Mayor. Another big question in our community: going to church.
Yes.
Is it safe to go to church? Well, first, are churches allowed to even be open?
Well, that question probably has a different answer maybe than the second question. Yes, they are allowed to be open, and I can't say enough about the clergy and the religious community of this city, because even though they were still allowed with social distancing to conduct certain services, I mean, they bought into the idea that this is a time in our history globally where people that we can impact their safety, we need to do what we can to impact it positively. So most pastors are still using technology to be able to reach their parishioners. I know our church, Karen and I we all go to Zoom meetings for Sunday school, and then we watch a streamed service. So it's a little odd right now, but yes, they are open. And in fact, if you do attend, the governor had even given some ideas on how best to come into the church and how to leave, and actually do it pew by pew so that you don't create big gatherings.
Thank you. Dr. Hilt, is there anything else that you can add to that regarding safety in attending a worship service?
Yes, we actually distributed some health department guidance on how to prevent the spread of COVID-19 at churches and other places of worship. And those infection prevention steps, pretty similar to what we see to other businesses, but we've instructed churches, to do deep cleaning of their entire building. We've asked them to increase their cleaning and disinfection after each service, to offer multiple services to accommodate social distancing of at least 6 feet. We know that social distancing of at least 6 feet is one of the most effective ways to stop the spread of COVID-19. So as a parishioner, a person going to church, that's the thing that we need to be mindful of. We've asked them not to hand out bulletins or flyers and to provide hand sanitizer throughout the church. We're still asking that the elderly and medically fragile individuals should stay home. It's very important that we monitor our own health and recognize that if we're one of the people in those vulnerable populations, that we make the decision to stay home. We've asked churches to mark their floors as a visual cue for social distancing so people will know how far they need to be apart. We've asked them to remove or arrange some furniture to support that social distancing, as well as, even if they're going back to meeting in person, to keep an online meeting option, especially for those populations that we're asking to stay home. We're asking that the attendees, the staff, and the volunteers at church wear a mask. The church can supply masks, but cloth masks that people have personally are also suitable. And again, if any of the staff, volunteers, or attendees have any symptoms of COVID-19, whether it's coughing, sneezing, a fever, shortness of breath, we're asking them to stay home. We've asked the churches to post some signs about non-contact greetings, not shaking hands, in addition to keeping social distancing. We know that can be hard because that's a venue where people like to be close to each other. We've asked them to limit the bathroom use and to control the number of users in the bathroom at one time. So these are things, yes, you can open, yes, you can attend church, but being mindful of the practices that are going to keep you safe while you're in attendance.
Thank you, Dr. Hills, for that. And thank you to everyone else that is on the call. We've got about 15 minutes left as we go through the final bit of these questions. Here's one for the mayor. And this is a tough one because we have, unfortunately, a lot of our citizens who are now facing unemployment. How do they get in contact with the unemployment office? Some have called and left messages. How do they make that contact?
Yeah, that's been a huge challenge because I think the system, both their website and their phone system, wasn't built for the tremendous influx in people reaching out and looking for help. I think they've gotten some of those worked out. I know that they claim that they have serviced 85% of all valid claims. So I would just tell you that continue to try them both online and by phone. And if you cannot get through, you can call our office and we'll see if we can provide a contact for you that maybe we can get you in some other way.
Thank you. For our city attorneys, when are the courts going to open back up?
David, let me give folks listening some just general information and some phone numbers again on our different courts. Early on, our judges knew that crowds of dozens and hundreds of people coming to the government center was going to be a real serious problem. They got together and put out a judicial emergency order, and of course then the state of Georgia put out a judicial emergency order. So they have really clamped down on throngs of people gathering in a government center or a courtroom. But the General Superior Court website, if anybody has questions about things in Superior Court, it is www.muskogecourts.com, and their general phone number is 706-653-4370. Again, for probate court, if people are interested in weapons carry and marriage licensing, they should call 706-225-4750. For wills, estates, guardianships, it's a different number, 706-653-4333. And the probate website is www.columbusga.gov/probate. The state courts, who may actually move some of their criminal arraignment sessions during the summer months to the Civic Center, if necessary, to prevent crowds at the government center. State court clerk criminal number for folks that need it is 706-225-4368, and their civil clerk number is 706-225-4361. And one more time on municipal court, who also may use the Civic Center in the coming months. Municipal court general number is 706-653-4378, and magistrate court is 706-653-4390. And hopefully those will help if folks have questions about pending cases or other matters.
All right, thank you for that. Another question regarding courts. If someone gets a jury summons, what should they do?
Just call our director. Sonia has got only 2 people in the office. Again, there are going to be very few, if any, jury summons for the next month or 2. That's just me using our crystal ball here, because jury trials involve so many people and so many contacts. It's probably going to be very limited, but the number for the jury manager is 706-653-4312. People can call that number and receive instructions if they happen to get a jury notice.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, 2 questions regarding making sure people and businesses are abiding by the current policies. What should citizens do if say their neighbor is having a wild non-social distancing party? And is anything being done to spot check businesses and make sure that they're abiding by laws?
Well, you know, that's the tough part in this, because our public safety people have been asked by the governor in his order to be the enforcement arm of this. But when we do show up, whether it's a complaint or whether it is a facility that they just stop by, they approach it from a perspective of trying to encourage people to comply, educate them as to what they're required to do. Now, if they refuse to comply and they come back again, they can cite them. But if there is a party going next door, don't go confront them. Our recommendation would be to call the police if it is exceeding noise limits and you think they are ignoring social distancing requirements. You can check with the police department. And we do, I wouldn't call them spot checks, but just in the normal routine of sheriff's deputies, marshal deputies, and our police department traveling through the city, they do stop in and just check and use that as an opportunity to educate the business owner on how they can come into compliance. We don't want to cite people, and we certainly don't want to ever get in a position where we even consider shutting down a business. We want them to stay open and be viable, but we need to ask them to do it by the rules so that it doesn't unintentionally put other people in danger.
Thank you. Had another question. A citizen wants to know, what do they do if they get a speeding ticket?
Pay it.
That wasn't me, by the way. That's another citizen.
As my wife sent that in. Yeah, I mean, right now, Recorder's Court, they're probably not going to give you, when you get that ticket, you get a summons, and they probably are not going to do it. As the city attorney pointed out, it's unlikely that they're going to have any courts that you're going to have to attend anytime real soon. But yeah, there's an online process, or you can drive by and drop your payment in. But if it's a speeding ticket, you know, if you got caught, pay it.
Dr. Asante, Dr. Hill, what should someone do if they feel they've come in contact with someone who has COVID-19?
There's a couple of things that someone can do if they have come in contact with someone who has COVID-19. Number one is just understanding if you truly are a close contact. By definition, you're a close contact to someone if you've been less than that 6-foot separation for at least 10 minutes to someone who's a laboratory confirmed COVID-19 person. So that's the definition, because sometimes people were exposed to somebody who was exposed to somebody, so they're actually not a direct contact. So you yourself have to be exposed to someone who has a laboratory confirmed positive COVID-19 less than 6 feet away from them for at least 10 minutes. And then if you have, you're considered a contact. And we need you to isolate yourself from the last time you were exposed to them for 14 days. from that last exposure to that person. You're going to quarantine. You can also go to your local health department and get a COVID-19 test to determine if you are positive or not. We recommend that you wait at least 2 days from the time you were exposed to that person, because we don't know truly all the ins and outs about the incubation period of the virus, but we do know it's about more than 2 days. So we say wait 2 days. If you just got exposure this minute, don't come to us and get a test the next minute. So wait 2 days and get a test. But in the meantime, you need to be quarantining yourself. You can also go onto our website and you can enroll in an active monitoring program. So we encourage people to monitor themselves, check your fever, monitor your symptoms during that 14 days, but you can actively enroll in a program that the health department, the state health department has set up, which allows us to actively monitor you. In case symptoms arise, you can ask us questions. We use a text-based system or a phone-based system, and you can auto-enroll yourself into that. If your name was given to us when we contact a person who is positive for COVID-19, there's a program called contact tracing. Your name could be provided, so you might get a phone call from the health department's contact tracing team saying someone has identified you as a contact to them and they have tested positive, and here's what we need you to do. We need you to quarantine yourself for 14 days and monitor your symptoms during that time, as well as encourage that person to get a test. So those are steps that you would take if you've had an exposure.
Thank you. And as we wrap up, we have about 4 more minutes left. Dr. Hiltz, you spoke on these a little bit, but just to reiterate, are there any other tests other than a nose swab that is done? And do you have to have any kind of doctor's note to get a test? Dr. Hiltz, you're muted.
No, thank you. So I was saying you do not have to have a doctor's note or an order to get a test at the health department. And most of our community partners who test, you do not have to have an order for that as well. The other part of the question is whether or not it has to be nasopharyngeal. We have had people who just for a medical reason can't get a nasal swab. We do have an oral swab that we can provide if that is the case. And there are some other partners, again, who do a serology test. That's a blood test that you can take if you don't want to get that nasal swab. So majority of our tests are nasal, but we do have an alternative for people who can't get the nasal swab.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, there's a question about the tag office. I believe I can answer that one as well as you can, but some people have called and have had trouble getting through, and they're concerned about renewing their tag and what they should do. I can handle that, or I can turn it over to you for that one.
You're the expert in that one.
Well, thank you. Yes, we did have some issues with our phone system, but we are working to get that resolved. In the meantime, if your tag expired anytime after March 16th, you have until that Monday, June 15th renewal date to do it. You can drop it off at our Dropbox, or you can go online, eservices.drives.ga.gov to do those renewals. Anything besides a title transfer can be done online. Mr. City Attorney, here's another question that you spoke on earlier, but some people may still have this question. They're worried about getting evicted soon. Their job has not reopened. They're unemployed, but they're worried about getting evicted. What should they do?
Again, if they've got a mortgage that's issued through a bank, federally funded with FHA, Freddie Mac, or the third entity with federal funding, those are under a moratorium right now. As a practical matter, there are probably not going to be any other evictions in the next month or two because the municipal court simply is behind on scheduling things like that, and they're going to be having some hearings this summer, possibly in the Civic Center, but the municipal court and magistrate numbers we gave out, people can call with questions. If they have a need for legal service, they can try Georgia Legal Services at 706-649-7493. The folks there may be able to help people with general housing issues if they're not under a moratorium under the federal rules, but those are the things that they can do right now. As a practical matter, there probably won't be dispossessory hearings for another month or two. and call municipal court and magistrate court with questions about that.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. That concludes our questions. At this time, I will turn it back over to Mayor Henderson.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may make an announcement that I believe would be important to citizens regarding elections. Just to let them know that a ballot drop box is available at the City Services Center. Additional sites will be announced once installation is complete. Boxes will be open for voters to deliver ballots until 7:00 p.m. on Election Day. These boxes will not require any postage to return and will be emptied once a day. Boxes are monitored by video for safety. So early voting begins Monday, May 18th at the City Services Center from 7:00 a.m. to 7:00 p.m. and that's Monday through Friday. They can visit the elections website for the complete schedule for early voting, but I will tell you that early voting starts May 18th and May 18th through May 22nd from 7:00 a.m. to 7 p.m. May 23rd, 9 a.m. to 4:00 p.m. They will be closed May 24th and 25th, Sunday and Memorial Day. May 26th through 29th, 7:00 a.m. to 7 p.m. May 30th through 31st, 9:00 a.m. to 4:00 p.m. June 1st through 5th, 7:00 a.m. to 7:00 p.m. And if there's a runoff, that runoff will be on August 11th. And so early voting starts Monday, and they will have a ballot drop box there at the City Services Center, and additional sites will be announced once those drop boxes have been installed. Wanted to make that announcement for those who are listening.
No, I'm glad you did. Thank you very much. Does anybody else on the panel have a closing comment or anything they would like to say? If not, let me thank the panel, all of these individuals, for giving of their time to be able to answer your questions as you're watching. And I certainly want to thank Mr. David Britt for the great job that he did this evening. And I really want to thank the folks that tuned in to watch this. And so we know this is a really unusual time in our community, in our state, and in our country. And I'd love to tell you that it's all going to be better in the next day or two, but it's just not going to happen. The good news is that the weapon to combat this virus is us. So our message, as you can tell from the individuals that have joined this roundtable, to you remains the same. We are thrilled to see our businesses getting an opportunity to engage in commerce and try to keep people employed and starting to get our lives back to some semblance of what they were before this pandemic hit. But we have to do it wisely. We have to do it while we think not only of how we're impacting our health, but also the health of our families and of our neighbors. So we encourage you to continue to adhere to the social distancing. We encourage you to continue to monitor your own health. If you feel poorly, stay home until you can get a test from the health department, and take care of the little things like washing your hands. Do it for the people that you love. I hope we answered most of your questions tonight. If we didn't, we will try to put another one of these together in the coming weeks. In the meantime, thank you all so much, and we pray that you all stay safe. Good night.